Hey everybody, this is Gabe Hernandez with Comical Opinions. Another video today to talk about Fortnite and its connection to the comic book industry and how the connection and the relationship between those two things could bring the opportunity to help save Marvel and DC Comics. It's a bit hyperbolic, but I think there's a lot of strong benefit that can be gained there. But for us to be able to kind of make that assessment and understand what really can be done, first, I have to look at the numbers a little bit. Rough estimate. I mean, we don't have the insider numbers, but at least look at them in at least at a high level, and then we can think about what can be done with that money and where it would make the most sense for the comics industry. So when I say Marvel and DC, I'm not saying Marvel as an overall organization or DC as an overall organization. I'm talking specifically about the comics portion, the publishing industry side of those organizations. But first things first, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Comical Opinions newsletter. Every week, usually on Sundays, I'll put out an in-depth article talking about one of the topics that we covered in the videos over the course of the week. Usually I'll pick the video that gets the most engagement for folks that seem to have the most interest in that particular topic. That's the one I'll expand on just to kind of give it a little bit more depth, a little bit more insight into what's going on there. It's completely free. There's a link down in the description. And as you can see here, I've got a number of different articles that you can read, all completely free. The big one I'm talking about this week, as you can see from the title, is Politics in Comics. Where did it come from? Where does it start? And is that really the problem that it's being made out to be? The shorter answer is no. The longer answer is it's a little bit more complicated than that. So please subscribe if you haven't already. Give it a look, and let's move on to the video. So I have the website up for Fortnite, and they're talking about Season 4 of Battle Pass, which is the Nexus War. In this particular Battle Pass, you can put on the skins of an assortment of Marvel characters, as you can clearly see on the screen. Everyone from Thor to Iron Man. You have Groot, Doctor Doom, Wolverine, just a whole host of Marvel characters, and you can play as those characters. Now, Fortnite has nothing to do necessarily with Marvel and Disney. So the question is, how is that happening? How is it that Fortnite is able to put out this Battle Pass where you can dress up as an assortment of Marvel characters? And the answer, of course, is licensing. Some relationship, some sort of negotiation occurred behind the scenes where Fortnite, which is a video game company, obviously, they are looking to borrow those characters, and that's probably the best way to put it, and they do it for a cut of the revenue that they receive from the payment. Now the question becomes, how much money do they get, and what could Marvel, and if DC does something similar, and I believe they're already starting to do that, because I do believe they released a preview image of Jason Momoa's Aquaman as a skin within Fortnite. What could they do with that? How much roughly could that be, and what could they do with that money? So if we look at how much a Battle Pass costs, Fortnite uses something called V-Bucks. I don't play Fortnite. I've seen it. I've played with it a little bit, but I don't really play it. They use something called V-Bucks. One V-Buck is equivalent to roughly in real world dollars about 10 cents. So a Battle Pass that costs 950 V-Bucks is also the equivalent of $9.50 for that Battle Pass. So then the next question becomes, and this is just a math exercise, we're just going to step through it one piece at a time, is how many players are on Fortnite as of the 2020 census. It's roughly about 350 million players. That's a lot of players. Now, not all those players will buy the Battle Pass. Some will, others won't. So when I make the following estimates that come after this, I'm not going high. As a matter of fact, I'm probably estimating very low, but I want the numbers to be conservative so we can see what we've got to work with. So for this exercise, I'm just estimating that about 20% of that 350 million will buy the Battle Pass. It could be much higher. It could be lower. I don't know. I just sort of made up a number, but 20% seems conservative, and that's a safe number. So 20% of 350 million is 70 million players. That's still a heck of a lot. And if each one of those 70 million players purchase a Battle Pass, that is $665 million. Now, what is that in terms of the comics industry? What kind of impact does that have? Now, I understand the comics industry, Marvel in this case, they don't get all the money. They just don't. They get a cut of that money. But still, let's take a look at it. Just for this Battle Pass, just for 20% of Fortnite's player base, which is owned by Epic Games, and hold on to that name because that's going to mean something a little bit later on in the video. If we look at the Comic-Con numbers, that handy dandy set of numbers for 2019, all of North American comic sales through Diamond, graphic novels, magazines for the year was 529.66 million. So let's take a look at that comparison again. Not there. There. If only 20% of the Fortnite players purchase a Battle Pass at $9.50 a pop, that's $665 million. If we look at the sum total of all comics publishers combined in North America, from Diamond, graphic novels, and magazines, that's 529 million. That's about 120 million, 125 million. Yeah, it's about $135 million difference. So that's $135 million over what the entire comics industry, I'm talking about comic books, graphic novels, everything through Diamond in North America. That's more. That's $135 million more than they made in all of 2019 for a single Fortnite Battle Pass. We say, well, okay, that's not fair. That's not fair, Gabe. Come on, back that up. That's not fair, because Epic Games, who owns Fortnite, doesn't give you all that to Marvel. They give you a cut of that. Okay, yeah, let's say Marvel gets 25%, which is kind of, I don't know if that's high or low. I don't know if that's standard or not, but let's say it's only 25%. That's still $166 million. That is a huge amount of money. Is that all of everything that all the comic companies did in North America combined? No, but it's about a quarter of it. It's about a quarter of it. I would gamble that that would make up for everything that Marvel did last year as far as comic book sales. So if we're looking at 166 million, that's on top of what the comic book companies are already doing. What could they do with that kind of money? Well, let's take a look at a couple of easy items, a couple of low-hanging fruit, as they say. They could invest that money into more digital infrastructure. So they have Marvel Unlimited, where they release their comic books in a digital format, kind of their version of Comixology. They could build that out bigger, stronger, faster, more powerful, more ubiquitous as far as being on every single platform and every single device. That's one thing you could do. You could do more as far as building out more original graphic novels, doing more one-shots, doing more some special projects. Those are the things that would immediately come to mind as a short-term idea. But that's not where they're really going to get their bang for their buck, because if we look at these sales from Comic-Con, those numbers have been dipping, and they've been going down steadily for the last few years. When you're talking about just comic books, we're not talking about everything that has to do with comics as far as manga, and I'm talking about superhero comics from the main North American publishers like Marvel, DC, Image, Valiant, IDW, Boom, whoever you can think of. Investing in infrastructure, investing in doing more comics is not going to help them out. As a matter of fact, I think it's be a waste of money. There's one particular reason why that's the case. And the case is part of the reason that the comic books, in my opinion, which is the point of the channel, part of the reason that the comic books have been in such steady decline is because the quality of the content they put out has just not been good. It's been getting steadily worse, steadily lackluster, steadily off-brand and off-target for their main purchasing audience. And if you just throw more money at them to make more of the same, it's not going to do you any good. So a lot of people will get on Twitter, Facebook, just on the Instagram, wherever, and they will tend to harp on the artists and the writers and all the creative teams that make the comic books. We take a look at the recent Iron Man 2020 run. One of the other YouTubers that I follow on Twitter and I watch his videos, Comics by Perch, recently did a video series where he was reviewing all of the Iron Man 2020 run, and he was unkind, and that's putting it mildly. It was not a good run. It just wasn't. And now you can slam Dan Slott for that. That's one way to go. But one of the things that I hold on to pretty dogmatically as far as the quality of the comics that come out is concerned is comics don't go to print unless editors and publishers say so. So if you don't like a comic, or if a comic is bad, and I don't mean just not for me, I mean objectively it's bad. The art quality's bad, the writing's bad, the story structure is bad. If all of that is bad, it's not the writer's fault, even though they wrote it. It's not the artist's fault, even though they drew it, or the inkers, or the colorists, or the letterers, not letterers, sorry. It's not their fault. It is 100% the fault of the editors and the publisher, because their job is to make sure the book is good quality before it goes to print. They're the quality check. They're the folks that say, nope, Dan Slott, this story sucks. Go do it again. They're the ones that say, nope, Brian Michael Bendis, what you're doing to Superman is dumb. Stop that. Make it better. They're the ones that say, Jonathan Hickman, are these X-Men supposed to be villains or good guys? Because they read like villains and we don't like that. That's their job. The editors are supposed to do that. The publishers approve all that. So if somebody doesn't like a book, and not just because it's just not their cup of tea, but because they think it's no good, and even by some kind of objective standard of measure, it's because the editors primarily and the publisher allowed it to go through. So when you see numbers like this, when you see $166 million, where should that go? Where should that go is beefing up and training the existing editors and hiring more of them that are capable and are strong-willed enough to kind of push back when something doesn't look good. If we go back to the now often cited Business Insider news article about Marvel and diversity, this particular paragraph caught a lot of people off. Beecham, who was now 31, was living in New York City with a child on a $38,000 per year salary after 3 years as an assistant editor. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I have relatives that live in Brooklyn, not Brooklyn anymore. Now they live in the Bronx, but we all used to live in Brooklyn. And that's not even Manhattan. That's not even the Upper East Side. That's not any of the schwanky areas. But I can tell you now, you can't live on a $38,000 salary in New York City, especially with a kid on the way. That's just it's not feasible. You are below livable standards at that point. The best use of that money is to promote your editors, give them a decent salary, train them to do their job well. Because when the books come out and they are not good, it's on the editor. That either means the other editors can't or won't do a good job. That means you need to get rid of editors that won't do a good job and hire good editors that will at a competitive rate. And the editors that want to do a good job but can't because they're not getting paid enough and they have to take a second job just to make ends meet, pay them a decent wage so they can do a good job. That's the one thing. There's the second thing you can do. Promote your books. Marvel and DC do not do a good job of promoting their comics. They will put out a motion comic trailer once in a while on YouTube. They might send a promotional poster that a local comic book shop can put in their store window and say, hey, this new title, maybe it's Captain Marvel, or maybe it's the Hulk, Maestro #1 just came out. Maybe they'll give them a promotional poster in their packaging and so they can put it up on the window. And that's about the extent of it. That's ridiculous. If you want people to buy your product, you have to advertise and market your product. You have to spend money in advertising and marketing. And not just in the local comic book shops, but you have to advertise and market to where the new audiences are. That means if you want young readers, you put advertisements in the schools, in the libraries, in the boys and girls clubs, in the YMCAs, wherever they hang out, in the community centers. You have to advertise outside of the local comic book store. In the schools, wherever reading is possible, wherever somebody might see it, that's where you have to go. If you want that market, you have to go to where they are. If all you do is you give them a poster and put it in the store window, that's not enough. It'll get you, all you're doing is advertising to existing comic purchasers, and that's not going to increase your market by any significant amount. So that's my opinion on this. I think Marvel, DC, they can all make a ton of money by establishing these relationships with these video game companies. Fortnite in particular is an easy win for everybody. Even if it's 25% of 20% of all the people that buy that battle pass, you're still looking at hundreds of millions of dollars. Should they use that to buy stuff? No, they shouldn't do that to buy stuff. What they should use it to is to invest in their staff, particularly their editorial staff. Give people who want to do a good job enough to live on so that they can continue to do a good job without having to get a part-time job to make ends meet. If people don't want to do a good job, you get rid of them and you hire editors that will at a competitive rate. That's the best bet for your money. And then start advertising your books outside of the local comic book stores. Put your advertisement in other bookstores, at the mall, at the schools, at the libraries. You want more kids? You find where the kids are, and that's where you advertise to them. I don't see Marvel and DC doing nearly enough to market their products in nearly the same way. But having said all that, one little caveat that's a bit of a red flag, just need you to be aware. Fortnite is owned by Epic Games. As you can see, the little Epic logo there. And Epic Games is at present, I think, 48% owned by Tencent, which is a Chinese video game company. So just got to be careful there. You know, China doesn't exactly have a great relationship with the United States these days. So when Marvel is establishes these relationships where they're looking to get big payouts, but they're doing it through relationships with companies that are in bed with China, just got to be careful about that. There are already some issues with the MCU movies doing weird sensory things just to please the Chinese market. So you just want to be careful about that. Money's good, but you got to consider the source. So it's a little red flag, not a huge one, but it's big enough that you got to keep an eye on it. So that's my opinion. Can Fortnite save Marvel and DC and all the other publishers? I think the answer is absolutely yes. But it's not a question of just getting more money and then hooray, we're all set. It's what you do with that money. Invest in your people, invest in marketing your product, and make sure that you're putting out the best product you absolutely can. All right. So again, this is Gabriel Hernandez for Comical Opinions. Please, if you haven't already, go to my newsletter. The link is down in the description. It's absolutely free. And you'll see the newsletter as soon as they're published, usually on Sundays. You'll get the full thing delivered right to your inbox. And the benefits of subscribing is in the future, we're going to be doing some perks and benefits for subscribers only. And the sooner you subscribe, the better the chance you are will be one of the early folks to get in on all the cool perks that I'm dreaming up as we speak. So this is Gabriel Hernandez for Comical Opinions, and thank you very much for your time, and have a great day.